Smiley loved to ride. Way younger than the rest, and your home life at the best. You can find 15 alive. Lord, give him one more chance to let him ride.
How you doing, folks? It's Mitch from Hardntentions. It's been a while since I made a video, but I had to come on and do one. You know, I was thinking about stuff the other day. I got things on YouTube, and it's in the newspaper and all this stuff, these convictions for RICO that this prison gang, supposedly prison gang guys from, they took them out of New Folsom, Sacramento. They got convicted on a RICO charge, and this guy Popeye, you know, he turned rat. Some other guy turned rat. So, you know, it was just on my mind, and I was like, man, you know, I brought up a lot of stuff, and so these dudes are gang members supposedly, right? So, I mean. You know, it's hard to talk about it without talking about it, but you know, so I remember when I went to Vacaville for Category X program. It's a 90-day observation, and I was in the hole. I stayed in the hole for 7 months, and then I went out to the security housing decompression unit on the main line. But while I was on the tier, I was on the third tier, and it's that you get the cells, they face out. Then you got a tier with a screen, and then it's screened off in sections. I think you had 3 or 4 sections on that tier. And I used to come out, you know, you come out, shower, walk up and down your little section of the tier, and then eventually I got the job in the kitchen, and then I worked my way out to the main line. That's how the program worked, you know. But they bring guys from other prisons there, and they brought this guy next to me, and he was in the section next to me, and he would come out for exercise on the tier, same time I would, and you know, I'd talk with him, and his name was Dennis Hansen, called himself Short Dog. So this is in '84, and he had to be in his 50s, I want to say. But you know, way back in the day, he was a member of the American Nazi Party, San Quentin, like in the 60s, you know. Then he went to Folsom, and you know, hooked up with a prison gang. And he says when he got there, you know, these guys they're from a different group, and they're like, you know, why don't you hook up with us? And he's like, you know, we both got bad guys, and why don't we just take the best guys from each crew and start a whole new crew? And then he said they laughed at him. They're like, yeah, that ain't happening. So he hooked up with his crew, you know, and but you know. He talked about TD and, you know, all kinds of guys. And so his crime partner was Rick Terflinger. And so Rick Terflinger was younger, and he had another crime partner named Jimbo, I think his name was. So Jimbo did his time at Tracy and got out. And he goes, yeah, you know, this guy had dropped out. He quit. He just quit. You know, there was no like turning rat or nothing. He just quit. Same way Danny Dog did. Same era guys, you know. And he goes, you know, we got busted, and Rick made a statement against me. And he goes, I never said anything about it because I had already been to prison, dope fiend, criminal, all that shit. And he goes, I feel like I ruined his life. You know, so I never said anything about it. And then he goes, you know, all these years, Rick was in Quentin, he was in Folsom. He'd tell me, hey, once you hook up with these guys here and this and that and the other, and he never did it until this guy quit. Then he hooked up with him. You know, and that guy was, you know, everybody thought he was a big shot and whatever. just goes to show you never know, you know, what somebody did way back in the past, you know. And from what I understand, Rick dropped out. Last I heard, he was in a facility in Folsom. That was before I got out of prison. And that's our killer, Chewy. You know, but this dude, man, he, you know, I hear the nose, you know, Thompson keeps telling stories on these other channels about TD and all this stuff. And I'm like, man, everyone knows who TD is. Nobody really knows him, right? Unless they were around him. But, you know, Short Dog told me, man, like, they had a clerk position, they had an outside line, and one of their guys had that spot. They had that spot sewed up. And, you know, they could call outside the prison and do whatever they want, you know, dope deals, whatever. That money get there, you know. And so some other guy who was a clerk, he knew about the outside line. And he ratted, supposedly, on this dude for something. Got him fired, and then he got the job as a clerk with the outside line. And it, you know, evidently it wasn't that hard to read, you know, the trail, right? And so that guy got taken out the box, you know. But Short Dog said, you know, he told dude, "You want me to go with you?" And he goes, "No, I got it." And they're walking down the tier, and dude went in the cell, came right back out, and this guy never even broke a stride, really. As he walked by the cell, he looked in. Dude was laying on the floor in a puddle of blood, and from what I understand, he died. So, you know, that's how guys like that got busy, and there were quite a few guys like that back in prison. They didn't have to think twice about it, but then they didn't project themselves as tough guy, killer, be afraid of me, you know, bow down and kiss the ring, you know, kind of shit. Them dudes had a sense of humor. Them guys had a sense of, yeah, they had camaraderie to some degree, you know, their little group, but they had personality. And their personality wasn't, you know, I'm a fucking dope fiend, I'm going to stay loaded all the time. And, you know, I'll kill you if you don't give me what I want. They would kill you, and that was common. But, you know, dudes that would do that, that would take somebody down, they didn't have to broadcast that. And if you had a conflict with them, you know, there was a saying back in the day, if it ain't worth killing over, it ain't a problem. So, you know, when I hear guys like Thompson talking about them dudes, yeah, he knew them and all that stuff, but that's partially why he quit, because he was in the hat with another guy who's rest in peace, Blinky, you know. So they don't make guys like that anymore. You know, I heard stories about Barry Mills, man. When he went to Tracy, you know, they had a northern Mexican prison gang there that wasn't too fond of what he was, and they weren't too fond of whites in general. And my friend was standing in the chow line, and now they got a handrail that goes all the way up to the front. You walk up, you get your tray. They got a big wall, and it was all open, you know. And Moose told me, man, they were standing in line to, you know, going to eat chow, and dude, tell him, excuse me for a minute. He's like, yeah, whatever. Yeah. And he stepped out of line, and just like that, he stepped back in the line. But Moose said he heard a clank, like a piece of metal clanking on the ground, you know, like somebody dropped a piece of metal. And so dude stepped out of line, got back in line. They sit down to eat, and there's like 3 dudes stabbed. You know, alarm went off, all that shit. Some guy, one of them died, maybe 2, right? Stabbed 3 dudes just like that. Excuse me, stepped out of line, boop, got back in line, like nothing ever happened. You know, he knew it was get off first or be gotten off on. So when the nose talks about dealing with 7 dudes, you know, barefisted it, you know, come on. That, you know, It was a serious business thing back then. And a friend of mine told me the nose was on #1 on their hit list. But, you know, they don't make dudes like that no more. Guys that walk into a bank dressed as armored car guards and they give them the money because they think they're armored car guards. That's gangster shit, you know. Them dudes did what they had to do and they did it. But in the meantime, you know, they were enjoying their days, you know, having some good food when it was available, you know, maybe partying it up a little bit here and there, whatever, visits, you know. I mean, there was no, guys weren't locked up forever in a shoe. People were on the main line, you know, but they don't make dudes like that no more. And so when I see, you know, they got this RICO trial going. I mean, they tried these dudes back 20 years ago. I don't know what happened to them, but some of them got guilty, some of them, you know, not. And they just found, so they had tried like what, 10, 13 guys, and a bunch of them took deals. 3 guys got convicted. From these other YouTube channels, supposedly people are arguing in the elevators in front of people, in front of attorneys and cops, calling each other names. I mean, them guys back in the day didn't do that shit. And there's one of them just got convicted recently that I knew about. He just left Preston when I got to Preston. And guys were getting letters from Danny from San Quentin to Preston when I was in Preston. So that's how the connection, you know, you went from youth authority to prison. So he's been around for a long time, and everything that I ever heard about him said he's a pretty decent dude. Whatever, he's hooked up, you know. So, but you know, them guys back in the day, they didn't. There was no loud talking. There was no calling people names. If somebody was bad, they you know, they disappeared. I mean, that's the name of the game. And some of them dudes, they're still around. They still play that disappear game. Evidently, that's what the guys were on trial for. That kind of activity, you know, that dope and all that crazy shit. But you know, I remember when I was in the West Yard, I was like, I might go over here and take this program. And this guy goes, well, let me, you know, I wonder if it's cool for lifers. And this guy says, let me call my homeboy Popeye and check it out. I'm like, I just laughed. I was like, yeah, okay. You know, look where he's at now. He's an informant, testified against people. So back then I thought it was a fucking joke, you know. You know, this other guy got in because he had a big drug sack. He took deals and informed. I mean, you know, guys slip through the cracks, man, and get into organizations that they really don't belong in. And, you know, then when they think it's all fun and games, they're making money, slinging dope. Maybe they had a huge dope sack and it's their way to whatever. But when it's time to pay the piper, it's time to pay the piper. And them dudes crumble for whatever reason. And on the other hand, you got guys who are dedicated their life to being in prison. You know, so now they're trying another one that of them dudes that I heard was pretty straight up stand-up kind of guy. People like him. They're trying him in Fresno, and he's been around since the early '80s. And so what I don't understand is why they didn't try him with them other guys. You know, I think his case is going to be a little bit harder to prove and a little bit more desire on law enforcement's part to convict him because he's, you know, gangster for real. And there ain't too many of them guys left. So, you know, that's what I was tripping on today, man. Like, in general, it's not just them guys from the old days that have changed the way they are now. A lot of things have changed. People don't act the same. People they have an image of how they're supposed to act or how things used to be, and they try to live up to that image and maybe, you know, put themselves one step above that, whatever they think that image was. but they've got it all wrong for the most part, because the behavior that they're putting out there is not, it's not how it was. And, you know, but you had guys back then that had ratted, they were floating along, and then, you know, like Rick Terflinger, you know, his history, you know, I don't know, never know what happened to Short Dog. They didn't let him out on the main line there. They sent him somewhere else. But, you know, the guy had stories for days, man. You know, they would cook wine in the kitchen, they had a pipe, go out to the yard, guy could just go to a little faucet and, you know, whoop, whoop, fill his cup up full of wine out of the yard, wine from the chow hall. You know, I mean, dude, I heard so many stories from the old days when I first went to prison that, you know, Danny used to tell me that everyone in San Quentin has a hustle. And I go, what's a hustle? What do you mean? And he's like, there's a way to make money for everyone. You know, there's money for everyone. And I was like, oh, all right. You know, so when I got to prison, that was my thing. And other guys told me, hey, don't ever commit a felony without making a buck, you know. So that was how I grew up. You know, them dudes are pretty much all gone, or they're buried away somewhere where nobody can see them, you know. And you got to, you know, like you got to dudes walking around trying to pretend they're that kind of guy, and they're not, you know. And you know, I find it, I don't know, I find it interesting, you know, because back in the day, like, you know, there was a dude I ran into in an ad seg unit, Ron, I think his name was, and you know, he was in that crew, and then another guy in that crew, Tank, he was started writing his sister, and then she, you know, he had talked her into coming to visit him, you know, and he told Tank, hey, if you get my sister in trouble, don't get her in trouble, you know. Oh, I won't. And you know, he got her busted bringing dope in the pen. So he got out, and then I believe Tank got out, and he let him stay on the street 1 month for every year he was in prison, and then he caught him in the phone booth and hit him with a shotgun, you know, because he got his sister in trouble. You know, guys were serious about their word, you know, back then. It wasn't fun and games all the time. You know, it was you know, sometimes, and I imagine it is in a lot of situations now, you know, it's fun and games until it gets serious. And then what are you going to do? Well, a lot of guys decided that they were just in it for the fun and games. They weren't in it for the long haul, for the big ride, you know. And so when the indictments start coming down and you're facing 20 years, you're facing life, you're going to go to some shithole ADX, you know, you're never coming out of your cell. I mean, you know, they're not down for it. And you could tell because they put their names all over YouTube saying they're informants now, that they cut a deal with the prosecutors. And, you know, the guys who are in it for the long haul, you know, what are they thinking? You know, they're still committed to, and this is for all races. You know, they're still committed to what they signed up for, and guys are dropping like flies, and you know, and in some cases, you know, in other prisons, they might find out some guy got whacked for whatever reason. I mean, what's going through their minds? I mean, you know, hey, I signed up for this, and I'm not, you know, I'm going to finish it out. That's a pretty hard situation, man. That's a hard person right there. Committed, you know, rare. Even out here in the world, you know, you find someone committed to a cause, maybe even a positive cause, that's going to ride it out like that. Good luck. Good luck finding that, because they're far and few between. I know a few guys like that, you know, and I was talking to one of them, you know, a while back, and I told him, you know, doing this and this is, 20 years and this and that's a life sentence. And we're chatting and I'm like, that's why I don't do it. That's why I don't do any of that stuff, I'm not going to jeopardize the life that I have now to go backwards into something that I did when I was a kid. I signed up for a lifestyle, and I still ride bikes and all that other shit. But I got busted, I got convicted, and I wrote it out. Now I'm off parole and I'm living my life. So I never got hooked up in an organization. So I never made a commitment to ride something out to the end. I just made a commitment to myself. Hey, I got to do this, and I did it. A lot of guys don't want to do it. They don't want to do that. And like I said, if they run around like they got a license to do illegal shit, they usually do. Their exit plan is to become an informant. And in some cases, they're informants while they're doing it. You got guys in bike clubs that were informants, undercover informants the whole time they were in bike clubs, 10, 15, 20 years. And it come out, later on that they were dirty the whole time. But they were, cooking dope, selling dope, taking people down, like they had a license because they did. So, yeah, all that was just on my head because of all the shit that I see on YouTube about this recent conviction, And, man, wiretap phones. Who'd have figured, all the information they got in this case recently is from cell phones these guys had that were wiretapped. So they went and found their phones and wiretapped them. And I could see the average convict. He's like, well, if they find my cell phone, they're going to take it. And I'm just going to let you keep it. Well, I guess they do. Pretty chilly. Man. Anyways, take care of yourselves. Be careful who you sign up with. It can be detrimental or it can be positive. You can have a wonderful outcome or not. Choose your friends wisely and get out there and do it hard.